Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to use reported speech. In other videos you can see the rules and the grammar, but in this video it's showing you how it works, going from a formal article to someone talking about something, a book they've read, and then more informal, very casual, somebody telling their friend about a show they're watching. So hopefully this helps you kind of understand how to use reported speech in more formal to less formal situations.
The Swedish furniture maker IKEA has released its new range of products, gaming furniture. Now gamers can buy special desks, chairs, sofas, and other items to make gamers more comfortable when they play computer games or online games. There are more than 30 products in IKEA's gaming line. One of the more unusual things is an accessory that is like a big wooden hand to hold your headset. There's also a special pillow with pockets where you can put your hands to keep them warm. IKEA said it spent many years on designing the furniture. It got expert help in making sure it created the right products. To do this, it teamed up with the gaming laptop maker Republic of Gamers. IKEA said making furniture for gamers was a natural step for the company. It wanted to attract millions of gamers around the world to its stores and website. The company said it had created relevant, functional, beautiful, and affordable products and complete gaming solutions. It added that it wanted to make products that also appealed to female gamers, saying, "The needs of billions of gamers around the globe are very diverse. 46% of gamers are women." It said, "Now we take the first step on our gaming journey, and we do it by presenting affordable, high-performing gaming products and complete solutions that we hope reflect the people's personalities and taste."
Now I'm going to report the article that he just read. Usually when you're reading an article and you're reporting things in it, you're doing it like within a paper. So you might be paraphrasing or summarizing. You're not usually saying the whole thing at once though. If the article is like 2 or 3 paragraphs, you're not reporting the whole 2 or 3 paragraphs. You're usually taking parts out of it. So I'm going to show you how I would do that here. Okay, so the article is from the website Breaking English, which I think is a really nice website for practicing reading because it has news stories that are real at different levels. So here it is here. This is what was read, and here's how I would report it. So the yellow part is the actual text, the original text out of the article, and then the green part is the reported speech. So let's say we want to report this line. The Swedish furniture maker IKEA has released its new range of products gaming furniture. So I would say, as reporting this in a paper or something, or even saying it, I would say, Breaking News English wrote that IKEA had released new furniture designed for gamers. So you see, I switched from the present perfect, IKEA has released, to had released. And I said Breaking News English wrote, so that you know it was written in the past. And I changed around some of the other words, and I used some synonyms so that I'm not copying every single part of the original, but I did change the verb tense back one step. Here's the next line. Now gamers can buy special desks, chairs, sofas, and other items to make gamers more comfortable when they play computer games or online games. Here's the reported speech. It said that gamers could buy special types of furniture to make them feel more comfortable while playing video games. Here's another one. There are more than 30 products in IKEA's gaming collection. Reported speech. The article stated that there were more than 30 products in their line. Here's another one. It wanted to attract millions of gamers around the world to its stores and website. The article said IKEA had wanted to attract gamers from all over the world. Here's another one. This one, though, is a quote within the article. So when we report this, we have to maintain that original quote. So look how it is. It said, now we take the first step on our gaming journey, and we do it by presenting affordable, high-performing gaming products and complete solutions that we hope reflect people's personalities and tastes. That quote was taken directly from IKEA, and then the article reported it as a quote. So when you report that, you also have to keep it as a quote. The article said, and then you would actually say the article, wrote that IKEA said. You want to say who said it. Now we take the first step on our gaming journey, and we do it by presenting high performing. You keep the whole quote as the original. You could restate this quote and use reported speech as well. Okay, I just want to give you an example of how to do it by keeping the quote. And you could restate this quote with reported speech. You would say, at this time, because now becomes at that time, actually. At that time, IKEA was taking the first step in their gaming journey, and they had done it by presenting, you could change the words here, attractive solutions that helped every gamer, something like that. Okay, but what I want to point out here is, actually I'm going to take out the quote. If I wanted to report the quote within the quote, IKEA had stated in an interview that was reported in the article. You have to say who said what, where it came from. So IKEA had stated in an interview that was reported in this article that we read that at that time, because now becomes at that time, IKEA was taking the first step in their, not mine, not his, her, it's their, because we're talking about IKEA, the gaming journey, and they had done it by presenting attractive solutions that helped every gamer. So that's another way you can do that. That's how I would use those in something I'm writing. I would take out a piece and I would report it like that. I might not do the whole thing.
So I just finished a new book. I was reading it for about 2 weeks. It was like 400 pages, and they had lots of people using magic and riding horses and going on boats and doing all kinds of big and crazy, exciting and wonderful things. And I really loved the book. It was a lot of fun to read. I finished it yesterday in the middle of the night because I was almost done, and so I just had to keep reading until I just finished the whole thing. And now I have to get a new book. So today I'm going to order a new book. So hopefully in the future it will come. Maybe next week it will come in the mail, and then I can start reading a new book. And depending on where I order it from, it will come here to my house. I can order it from a store that is somewhere in my city, or I can order it from another country, because sometimes the books that I want, they don't have them in the city where I live, so I have to order them from somewhere far away, and then it takes a long time for that book to get here. But I'm really excited to read the next book because it's a book that a lot of people always talk about. I hear about it all the time, and I can't wait to get started, but it's really, really long. It's also like 600 pages. These books that I read, I guess when there's magic in them, that adds an extra 200 pages or 300 pages. So that's exactly what I'm going to read, is a really long book about magic, and I can't wait.
So now let's imagine I want to tell somebody else what he just said. So I'm going to use reported speech to do that. Okay, so he said these things that I use quotes for. He said, I just finished a new book 2 weeks ago. If I tell someone else that, I would say, he said that he had just finished reading a book 2 weeks before. I have to switch it to the past perfect, and I have to say 2 weeks before rather than 2 weeks ago, because it's not going to be 2 weeks ago when I say it. Maybe I'll say it a week after he said it. He also said this, I really loved the book. If I want to report that, I can say, he said that he had really loved the book. He also said, I finished it yesterday. If I want to report that, I'd say, he said he had finished it the day before. I have to switch to the day before because yesterday is not yesterday when I report it. because I might report it a year from the time he said it, and that's not yesterday anymore. He also said, I can order it from another country. To report that, you say, he said he could order it from another country. Can becomes could in reported speech. He said, I'm really excited to read the next book. To report that, he said that he was really excited to read the next book. Present tense becomes past when you report it. I'm going to read a really long book about magic. When you report that, you say, he said that he was going to read a really long book about magic. When we use be going to, we have to go to the past. He is going to becomes he was going to when you report it. So if I were really talking to someone, I would say, guess what? My brother just told me. He said that he had just finished reading a book 2 weeks before and that he was really excited to read the next book. And he said that he had to buy it on the internet from another country, but that he was going to do it anyway. And that he was going to read all about magic in the next book and that he was really excited. So I would just try to remember my best of what he said, and I would report it, but using, switching to the past. And here's how I would report on a show that I'm watching. And I would only do this to tell someone about a show I'm watching or convince them to watch it with me. And I actually just did this morning on the phone with my sister. I was trying to convince her to watch the show Outlander. So what I said was, hey, have you watched Outlander? And she said, no. I said, you should watch it. It's a show about this woman who travels through time. She starts off in the 20th century and then she goes into the 18th century. Okay. And so as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm actually using the present tense when I'm reporting this. And that's because when we're telling stories and we're not really being grammatical and following rules like reported speech rules, we're actually using something called the historical present. You don't need to know that, but a lot of times when we're talking about something that happened in the past or we're supposed to be reporting it, we'll actually use the present tense to talk about the past. So it's a story about this woman who travels through time. She starts in the 20th century and she goes into the 18th century and she meets some people and she falls in love. I'm using the present tense, and that is literally how I would tell somebody about this show. I would not use reported speech unless I'm focusing on one specific line or part, okay? If I'm talking about the whole show, I'm going to use the historical present, okay? But if I'm focusing on one part, like, okay, guess what happened last night in the story? The character had to choose between staying in the 20th century or staying in the 18th century. And by the way, if you haven't watched this show, stop watching this now because I'm going to tell you what happens. Okay. So she had to choose between going back to the 20th century or staying in the 18th century. And guess what? She decided to stay in the 18th century. So the way I would report that is just like that, okay? The story happens in real time. She decides whether she's going, that's happening in the present tense. But when I'm reporting it, I say, in the episode I watched last night, the character had to choose. In the story, she must choose at that moment, right? But when I'm reporting it, I say she had to choose whether to stay in the 18th century or go back to the 20th century. And she said to everyone around her that she wanted to, or you could say had wanted to, stay in the 18th century. So when I'm focusing on specific lines, that's when I might use reported speech. But to be honest, when people talk about shows and things that they're watching or things they're reading about and they're reporting it to their friends, they use this informal, historical, present reported speech. Now, that's fine. It doesn't have to be out of a grammar book every single time you talk. And there's actually nothing ungrammatical about using the historical present when you're reporting something. What happens, though, is that when we want to be technical and we need to report things properly, like in a paper, or we want to, we're quoting something, or yeah, we're paraphrasing, or we're summarizing something for an academic paper, there are certain rules that we use to make sure that the reader understands what time frame we're referring back to. But when you use a historical present because you're talking with your friends about the show that you're watching, it doesn't need to be so technical that you're referring back to a specific time. So when you're talking about movies, you're talking about shows, you're talking about a book you're reading, a video game you're playing, or something informal with your friends, you don't need to really use reported speech when you're talking about the whole thing. Just report it using the present tense, the historical present, okay? Until you narrow down and focus on one specific time, that's when we shift more to using that reported speech, those rules where we shift back to the past. She has to decide whether to stay in the 20th century, the 18th century. That's historical present. But you can say, she had to decide and she decided to stay. You can switch back, but nobody's really going to be focusing on your grammar. They're focusing on what you're saying. They're focusing on the meaning. Obviously, if there's so many grammar mistakes and you can't say what you're saying, then you won't understand what you're saying. But whether to use the historical present or reported speech in a time like this isn't a big deal. It's what we do when we're speaking to our friends.